I'm regressing him, going through his ages to a young boy, age regression it's called, right?
Mm-hmm.
He starts at 1.5, he's experiencing this, playing with blocks and stuff. He says, it's a bit blurry, but this is what's happening. So cool. And then he goes all the way back to his birth and he's like, oh, I've just been born. Look, and he's like, doctor's passing me to my mum and I can feel the blanket on my skin. I don't like it. So he's adding some feeling context to it as well. I was like, well, I can't validate or invalidate this, but it's a nice idea.
It kind of makes sense as well, like coming from inside
From a womb to a blanket?
like this blanket.
He's like, I don't like it.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, okay.
Okay, but whether it's valid or not, we don't know and I can't prove it. All I know is it's unlikely for someone to say that with as much emotional conviction that he was as well, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, cool. And then this is where everything changed. And I asked a question that no hypnotherapist asks, and I've learned that now. They'll say, and I said, okay, now just go to the time and place that you most need to go to for your healing. I left it up to the subconscious mind to then decide. And then he starts explaining, I'm in this body, I'm 27 years old, and my client's 21. So I'm like, okay, he's projecting himself 6 years into the future. Okay, I'll go with him. And then he starts explaining what he was doing. I was like, cool, I'm taking notes. And I was like, okay, fast forward. He's explaining a body type that wasn't quite his body type as well. And he said his name was Jeremy. I'm like, that's not even his name. So I'm like, where's he going with this? But he's going near something traumatic that we know that the ego can fragment a version of us to play out trauma. So it's not too close to home, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, he's really constructing a false identity here to really live out something, So I'm going to go with it, right? This is new. Goes all the way forward and I'm fast forward. Okay, what happens next? So he's going through this life. And I'm like, okay. He gets all the way to his deathbed and he's in hospital, right? And I said, okay, how old are you? He says, I'm 72 years old. I said, okay.
It's palindromic of 27.
Right? Hey. And I'm like, okay, well, what's happening? He says, I'm dying of heart failure. I said, okay, you're aware that you're dying? He says, yes. I said, is anyone with you? He says, yeah, my wife, Susan, she's on my left. I said, okay. She's holding my hand. I said, okay. Do you have any children? He says, yes. Axel and Chris, I love them dearly. Off like no doubt in his voice, no hesitation. I'm like, okay, cool. He said, but they're not here. I was like, okay. All right. Is there a date? Is there like, you got a date anywhere around this hospital? And then he just waits about 5 seconds and he says, yeah, September 11, 1981. Oh. And I'm like, 81? Backwards.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is 15 years before his birth.
I hell thought you were going to say 2001.
Come on, Boris. You ruined it. Yeah. So he's gone now. So I'm writing it down. He's in the past. Okay, cool. So I said, what happens next? And he says, I've just died. I said, okay. So where are you then? Nice. He says, I'm above my body and my wife Susan's still holding my hand. She's crying. I said, okay, what do you notice? He said, if that body's there, what are you? How could I describe you then? Your vantage point. It's like I'm a ball of light. I said, a ball of light? And he's like, yeah, something like that. And he says, and there's this big, grand light above me, and it's drawing me in. And I'm like, okay, how does it feel? He says, it feels euphoric. I said, okay, if it feels right, continue on, see what happens next. And he passes into this light. And then all of a sudden, here's where it gets weird.
He is where it gets weird.
Dude, it gets way weirder.
Okay.
And he starts, his voice, so his linguistic style shifts. So the way he constructs his language and his words changes. He's now speaking proverbially, meaning like very proper. Saying things like, just say, I ask him a yes or no question, he'll say certainly instead of yeah. He's a bogan and he's saying certainly. And then anyway, so I said, okay, so if you've just died, right? I said, but you're also born here in 1996. What happens in those 15 years?
Yeah.
And he says, nothing. We waited for this body.
Nice.
I said, this body? Says, yes, he will unite people. He was struggling with the fear of isolation in this life here, which he needs to overcome here. But he will unite people in this body. I said,
I love it. Really?
And so I'm like, who are you then?
Yeah.
So who are you? And you know what he says? Kleinheid.
Wow.
And I said,
one of the souls.
Kleinheid. So I said, can you spell that? He says, Kleinehaide. I still remember writing it down when he said it. And I said, where's that from? And he goes, it's ancient. You wouldn't understand.
Wow.
So he assumes my knowledge.
Yeah.
You wouldn't understand.
What?
Yeah. So I'm talking to this. this voice that's beyond my client's linguistic capacity.
This guy's pronouns are out of control.
Right? 72, yeah.
Fuck.
And so here I am. And I said, okay, so who are you? If you're client, what's your role? What are you doing here? And he's like, you could say I'm watching over him. Or he says, but some might refer to me as an ascended master. But these are all just names. Yeah. They mean nothing.
How are you feeling right now in this when you're going through this? Is this because this would start to...
I would be, based off the shit I've read, I would be going so deep, but this would be the first time you've experienced
Would you be excited?
Yeah.
Would you do you think you'd get nervous?
I would love
a little bit like something's happening here.
I was excited.
But you don't want to,
you don't want to,
you don't want to impart your bias onto this person, right? So you
my
just gotta
scientific mind stayed with like this client onwards for the next year. Like my scientific mind was always skeptical.
Yeah.
Saying, where's this coming? Where are they conjuring up this knowledge from?
Yeah.
I've set up experiments and everything for this now.
Yeah. Cool.
You know,
so Kleinheit says,
and he goes, there's also a life in Greece and Egypt. Greece, 747 BC. He was a soldier, blah, blah, went through this. He needs to resolve that. Egypt, he needs to resolve this. I said, okay, all right. We go to Egypt, and then he's explaining Egypt, and I'm going to show you an 18-second recording, which he has given me permission to use.
Oh, wow.
18 seconds, he drops into another language.
Has it been translated since?
Not translated, but I have given it to, and I can't even say the person who has somewhat validated it because he didn't want to be on public record. He's a professor of ancient linguistics.
Yeah.
But when he found out the context of where I got it from, he's like, career suicide. My name cannot go, because it's spiritual.
Right.
So he's like, but...
It's like Sumerian or something.
Okay.
He goes, this language, I'll let you listen to it first.
Yeah, cool.
And just a couple things to look out for. Just imagine how old he sounds, this person, maybe what language it might be, and what he looks like.
Just put it close to the mic there.
Okay, listen to this.
Wow.
What the hell?
It's
almost like, that wasn't his actual, like he didn't sound like that?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No, this is a white
Sounds
Australian.
almost like Arabic.
White Australian bogan with tattoos all over him.
Yeah.
Not much of a vocabulary, not a judgment either.
Yeah.
But to put it in context. So I sent that to a particular professor of ancient linguistics, and I didn't tell him the context first. I just said, can you recognize this language? And he said, professional opinion or personal opinion? I said, both. He said, professionally, we have lost a lot of languages from ancient times, but it's definitely Mesopotamian.
Wow.
Right? Which is during that period of time. And then he says, but if I had to guess, it most resembles ancient Egyptian.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, that happens to be the context of where he was. And right before when he dropped into this language, he mumbled something first. And I said, what was that? What did you just say? And then he mumbled something else in this other language. And I said, what language is that? And he just says, the first.
This is my favorite episode ever.
That's mad. That's like the start of a horror film.
And then and then I grabbed my phone and put it next to him and recorded.
The Mummy Returns.
Yeah, dude. So that's happened multiple times now.
That's
so
sick.
now I was on a mission to validate, to verify what is.
So this is you've gone into this
now
this idea. You've not intended to seek this out.
No way.
You've let him go there himself.
Now some would
I didn't say go to a past life. That wasn't even my belief.
Yeah.
He doesn't believe in spirituality or past life. This guy is like atheist as fuck, man.
Yeah.
So you're just trying to heal him and tell him to go to the point in life in which he's going to be able to help heal his trauma.
Correct. Thinking maybe he might go 11 years old, 9 years, who knows? But then he's dropped into Jeremy's life.
Yeah.